How many people we got here that's actually seen a Sasquatch? Oh, we got some. Good, good. So you're believers, you're knowers, right? That's cool. All right, we're going to go over my little presentation called Sasquatch, Georgia. This is the same exact one I did in Washington State with Tom and Arla back in April. But you guys will be able to understand me better because you speak my speak. So the title of mine is Respecting the Forest Friends, and my book is called Forest Friends of the Night. Has anybody got my book? I know there's a few. You don't have my book, Jason? Well, I've got some of my books. Yeah, I know you do, Ginger. I got some of my books with me out in the truck. So just see me. Like, I got to get out of here quick, but if you want one, let me know. I'll pass a card out to you, and I can either meet you now, sign it, or whatever you want to do. So how did it all get started for me? I guess just like a lot of you, probably seen something about it on TV somewhere around 1967 when it all started with our best friend Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson. How it all started for me is way back when I heard about Bigfoot. I was watching this thing on TV. I was seeing it on the news, and it was embedded into my brain but at that time it was like anything else, Loch Ness Monster or whatever. It's just something that you see on TV. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it is. So then I grew up in Georgia hunting and fishing like I know a lot of you guys did when you're growing up here in the South. I stayed in the woods all the time. Arla, she's always stayed in the woods too, but being in the woods, you get aware of your surroundings. You get aware of, the animals, nature, how everything works, and it's just a peaceful, relaxing feeling, so that's where I love to stay. But along the way, started hearing some really weird stuff at night. Going all the way back, I remember hearing some things back 30 years ago when I was on my hunting property that I couldn't recognize. Like really, really deep moans that got higher and higher and then peaked at a crescendo that was just ear-piercing. I had some that were growls that would rattle your insides. I never knew what that was, but my mind was just making up all kind of things. It's a cow loose in the woods. It's this, it's that. Never seen it, but so this was spotty throughout my childhood until I got older. So then we had really weird stuff start happening. It's a 40-foot pine tree right here. I rode my four-wheeler by it. I looked over and I was like, wow, how did that tree get bent over? So I didn't really pay it much attention. But when I came back, I looked. There's a dead log, if you can see it. It's sitting on the top. It's got it pinned to the ground. That log was pulled 20 feet away and laid on that tree. Now, our property's gated. We had nobody that could come in and out without going through a gate and coming right through our camp. So it wasn't somebody that did that at night. So that was one of the first things, and that really got my head going. We had out game cameras everywhere for our deer herd. We wanted to see, how many deer we had on the property. Well, I ran across a track down in a creek bed in the middle of our property. It was about 17, 18 inches long. I could even see the mid-tarsal break, and I was reading about this stuff after we'd been hearing these noises. This was on a game camera on my son's. This was on top of a creek bank, angled down to that sandbar. It was about 14, 15 feet away. This thing got really, really close to the camera, but it was standing down in the creek, which was about 10 foot high. So I knew that wasn't a deer. It was right on the edge of the bank, so that's really the only good, clear shot of something. And I didn't even say this was a Bigfoot. It was just something that I knew was completely unusual. You get a lot of unusual things that start adding up to something really, really strange, right? Then we had unexpected signs like, we call these asterisks. Ginger's got a bunch of them. Arla, we've been seeing these all our life, I never knew what they were. I thought, well, that's weird how these trees fell like that. And then you start seeing them all the time. Your mind just starts kind of wondering what's going on. So at this point in time, I start really researching. I seen my track. I start seeing these things, that tree bent over. And I ran across a group called the BFRO. Jumped on there. I started asking questions. And after a while, I started posting everything that was going on. Before I knew it, they shut me down and kicked me out of the group. And I'm like, why? Because you're not supposed to post things that you see. You're supposed to let us know, and then we'll check it out. So I went another direction. I started looking up anybody I could run across. I ran across Dr. Melba Ketchum. I know some of you know who she is. Talking to her on Facebook one night on Messenger, and she says, Keith, if you really want to know about Bigfoot, there's one person that I know that knows more than anybody you'll ever meet, and she can teach you the right way to find out about Bigfoot. That was my sister, Arla Williams. Well, Arla Collette. Arla started mentoring me. The very night that I sent her a friend request, she accepted, we started talking, and that's where my education began. So, a lot of people wonder if they're dangerous. Yeah, they can be dangerous. But you could be too if somebody came into your home and tried to attack one of your children, right? All right. So what happened was, I've been on that property for 30 years, never had a problem. All of a sudden, we start getting little pebbles thrown at us. Never hit us, but always close to us, always close to us. And my son went to, my mom and dad were camping down there with him. I was actually in Mexico. And I get a frantic international call comes over. Dad, something tried to kill me. I said, what, son? What's going on? He had taken the dog, my dad's dog, out on a leash at night to walk him, and he had a shotgun with him because we had coyotes really, really bad, and he was worried about the dog, right? So he walks around the corner from the camper, and all of a sudden he hears a real loud huff, just real loud huff. When he heard it, we had 14, 15-foot pine trees. They started separating like weeds. Something was coming through the woods, and he could see the tops of the trees doing this as it was coming at him. Anybody ever watch any of those dinosaur movies? You see how all the trees part? Well, that's what it was doing. And when it got out to where he was literally running in the air. His feet weren't touching the ground. He finally touched down and headed toward the camper, forgot all about his shotgun, just threw it down. So that unnerved me. I didn't like that. It scared me. You know, I'm a father. I wanted to protect my son, but I couldn't. I was a long ways away. I told him, lock the camper. Y'all don't go anywhere. Stay there until daylight. So got home the next day. Immediately I drove 2.5 hours down to our property. And I walked over where this happened at. They were still there. And I found a set of tracks about, 7, 8 inches long, right behind where he was standing. And then I found Mama's tracks. They were big. So what had happened was, or this is the way I recreated it in my mind, he got between Mama and a baby. So that's the only time in all the Bigfoot I've seen, all the things that I've encountered, that I was ever afraid. And I was afraid for my son. So all my friends and myself, we started doing some research. People that I hunted with, some of the people here, Mr. Chandler standing back there, Arla, of course, Tom Cantrell. I started meeting all these cool people and started talking to them. And Arla decides, we need to come to Georgia, Keith. We need to have a little deal there and do some camping and bring people in. So we started our annual camping trip that's been pretty much every year since that. So we decided to try to do it a little bit closer. I lost my property that I hunted on for a brief period of about 3 or 4 years. We moved closer, actually just down the road here off the Chattahoochee River. We moved closer to a hunting area out here. So lo and behold, I started seeing the same things after we joined. I was relieved a bit that we lost it because I was worried about my kid. He was 16, 17 years old, but I was still worried about him. I immediately start seeing trees bent over. Now this happened while I was in the woods. I had went through the woods on my four-wheeler to where I was hunting at, and I came back and this tree was bent over, and I heard the commotion over the hill. And I'm like, that's a hardwood tree, and it's completely broken in half. So with that, I'm like, wow. So I'm in the camper a few nights later, and my wife at the time, Kathy, who was in my book, she was with me, and we start hearing, you ever heard the Ron Moorhead Sierra sounds? You ever heard the all that? We heard that outside our camper, and it was loud, and it was nonstop for about 20 minutes. So I looked over at her, and I was like, they're here. I didn't get away from them. But what started happening, I went outside the camper, and I just do like Arla told me, go out and talk to them. Tell them, you're afraid, you respect them. You're not going to hurt them. You guys are here. We're in your house. We respect you. And I did. That stopped. The very next morning, I woke up and there was a feather laying on the little table outside with a rock on it. Birds don't do that, right? So that began a relationship that I cherish to this day, and I get a little bit emotional because they were really special to me. This is actually where we started camping at. When I started looking for a place for us to have our campouts, ran across a place down the river here. That's where we started having it. So I'm starting looking and I'm finding all these cool things, right? So once I got there, like this is a place we're going to have our campouts, so we've been having them there ever since. This is actually Sam Chandler's. I give him credit for this. I asked you about using this slide back in Washington. I hope it's okay that I show it here, right? But yes, Sam, on the Sweetwater Creek, just right down the road here, that's where you had this track, right, Sam? So this area is covered. There are a lot of Bigfoot in this area from here down to Sweetwater Creek, Chattahoochee, as far as you want to go. So you're going to be in the midst of them tonight. It's a pretty impressive track, isn't it? That's not even a big one, but it's pretty wide. One of the signs that you look for with Bigfoot tracks, even if they're small, is the width. They're always a lot wider. They're not in shoes, so they can go where they want to go. And that's another thing we started seeing. This is at McIntosh. Actually, I photographed this with Ginger. I was with Ginger and saw that, and I took that picture. Yep. I find tracks. Try to put something down for scale, so you can see where it's at. But yeah, that one was about 12 inches. But where this one was, it's a horse trail. You don't walk down that trail barefoot, and it was quite a ways back. Now, this is a cool story. This one actually, I might even shed a tear telling us. I'm going to try not to. Back when I first started, and I was getting into this, and I had not even figured out really what was going on, I was invited to, Alex is supposed to be here. Is he here now? Oh, okay. Well, he did a conference up in Dahlonega, right? So beautiful, beautiful place up there. We had a big turnout, a lot of people, and I got to meet Ron Moorhead. Actually, me and Ron Moorhead and Tom Cantrell drove around Atlanta for about 2 hours when I got lost in the rain. But we got there immediately. It was just an energetic hall. We came in, everybody was happy, everybody was excited about it, and it was a spectacular conference, one of the best I've ever been to. But afterwards, after we had the initial conference, the first day, we all went out back. There's a little hill behind the conference center, and in the woods, we could actually see eye shine, and we could hear them walking. We could hear noises. We could hear them. And Alex would play, what was he playing? The flute, I think it was. But they would respond. It was really, really cool. This little guy named Elijah, he was about 11 years old. During the conference, he sat on the front row. He sat with his hands clenched the entire time, and every time something would happen, he'd just get excited. So I watched Elijah, and I'd go talk to him, and he was just pumped up about this Bigfoot thing. So as the thing went, and that first day was done, the next day after we were getting ready to leave, we were all packing up, and Elijah was sitting outside on the porch crying. I'm like, "What's up, buddy? Why are you crying?" He's like, "Well, I told the Bigfoot I wanted to see them or they needed to leave me a sign. They never did. They don't like me." I said, "No, Elijah, they like you. There's a lot of people here. Just stay with it. Sooner or later, they'll make themselves known to you, right?" So after it's all said and done, I hugged him. He got in the car with his mom. I'm still friends with her on Facebook. We're driving out. Now, I did drive this road about an hour before. There was nothing there. When we drove out, and Elijah was behind me in a car, him and his mom, there was this little guy sitting on the side of the road right on the edge. And I seen it, and I had to stop and take a picture. Well, Elijah, they pull in behind me. He jumps out squealing, stomping his hands and feet, and he says, "Look, Mom, they love me. They love me. They left me a sign." I don't know if they did it or not, but to him they did. That's worth everything, right? So this started a new path for me. It's been a fun path. It's been an exciting path. It's been a very spiritual path for me inside. It's a path that I still walk, and I've learned more than anything else. Above everything that you learn about these beings, these forest friends of the night, as I call them, you got to have respect. You got to have respect for them. You got to have respect for the land they live on. You got to have respect for yourself. That's where That's where it all starts. If you don't have that combination of respect and you don't have an open, clean heart, most likely you're not going to have an experience, because they are tuned into you. They're tuned into you mentally. They're tuned into your soul. Now, how to research. Tom Cantrell's got it figured out. This is Tom Cantrell's research. He takes a chair, sits it out, then he sits there and talks to them. He has a lot of sightings. He's had a lot of experience. You don't have to get out in the woods and beat on trees. You don't have to run up and down and yell at night. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Just go out, be yourself, and have fun. That's what we do at our campouts. And I can tell you, Sam, Jason, some of the other ones that are at our campouts, Jonathan, they come into our camp almost every night. They always perform for us. Nightcrawler, saw him when he was a little bitty dude. I watched him scoot along the ground, and I never knew why he did that. And my beautiful friend Anita over there found out why. He had a deformed leg, or deformed foot, wasn't it, Anita? I was talking about Nightcrawler. Didn't you tell me he had a deformed leg or foot? So that's why every time I saw him, he was on the ground. There was one time we were walking down my trail that I go down every time I go out there to visit with him. And I think he touched Jonathan on the leg. Didn't you get touched on the leg by Nightcrawler once? Oh, yeah. He was so close to the trail, Jonathan almost stepped on him. And when we was leaving one night, I know Ginger's seen him a few times too. He was laying next to the trail, and I don't know what kind of deformity he had, but when he jumped up, it scared me. Anybody ever walk up on a covey of quail? You know what that feels like? Scares the bejeebers out of you, don't it? Well, he jumps up fast as he can. He's wide open. He clears a 30-foot creek. I mean, from bank to bank on the other side, and he's up the hill. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen anything move that fast. But yeah, Tom's got it right. That's the way you research. I like that kind of research. But again, the key to everything is respect. That's the key word for you guys. I want you to remember that when you go out. Breathe the air. Feel the strength that you get from nature. Feel the sun. Feel all of that, okay? The more you can get into that, the more you can get that open feeling, the better you're going to have a chance to have some experiences. I promise you it works. Arla taught me that. Anybody know this guy? Not the fat dude on the other side. Bob came down to our camp out a few years back, and he had a blast. We had such fun with Bob. He told stories after story after story. If you ever get a chance to meet Bob, ask him about Charlie. Charlie's his pet rattlesnake. Cool story. So I'm learning and listening. I'm talking to everybody I know. Even Bob, he had some cool stories to talk about. And listening to that whole Patty adventure from start to finish, take you hours, the way he tells it especially. So here's some key things at this point. First and foremost, Bigfoot people are not monsters. How many people in this room, when you first started thinking about it, thought they were a monster? Yep. I know you did. I know your story. That's a good story. I can't wait. I'm going to try to be here to hear it tomorrow if I can. All right? They're the most advanced being in the forest. Now, the thing about Bigfoot, I've got a teacher, okay? We're going to talk about my teacher here. I learned from my teacher. Now, Arla Williams, I'm sorry, Arla, I can't get used to not saying Williams. Arla, I was talking to Arla one day, and she was talking to her teacher. And I was like, Arla, when am I going to have a teacher? Well, he told her I was going to have a teacher, and she even explained the circumstances of my meeting with him. She said, I hear this loud boom. I see smoke. I see fire. And it's just all this stuff over and over. And it didn't make much sense to me at that point. So I said, I'm going to try to do everything she tells me. I'm going to try to communicate. So I would literally try to focus my mind on him in the area where she told me he was going to come from. I did this for night after night after night after night. Finally, I got a date in my head. So me, Jason, help me, Jason, Brian Holcomb, who? Stuart, yeah, Stuart Fleming, Marty, yep, and the kids were there, but they didn't go. Cash the dog. I love Cash. So we decided we're going to head out. So we gathered on a Saturday evening, got our game plan. Actually, it wasn't much of a game plan. We're just going to go out and sit on the trail. I don't even know if I took a chair or anything, but I was excited. I knew it was going to happen. So we park our vehicles, we get out, and walk across the bridge. I call it my bridge too. It all belongs to me. And almost every time, inevitably, we would have one on the hill on the right. We'd hear one on the hill on the left. And I would take my little radar dilly, what you call that thingy? Parabolic. So I'd take that out, and you could actually hear them walking. Sometimes you can hear them huffing and gruffing and all the other stuff. So we took that, so I could hear them moving around. And we get across the bridge, and all of a sudden we see this big light. Looked like a spotlight, didn't it, Jason, at first? It was just looked like a bright flashlight, but it was coming from a very tall hill and a lot of thorn and brush that we wouldn't want to walk through it at night anyway. So I'm watching, and I'm like, who is coming down the hill? Stop. Oh, I forgot. I did play Arla's, one of her prayer songs. That's what he was coming to, I thought, to begin with. But as soon as I did that, it's when we seen the light. So we watch as he comes down the hill, slowly but slowly, and we could hear him walking, hear each step he took. Cash is at full alert, but he's not growling, he's just watching. So Cash is a pit bull, the most friendliest, sweet dog you'll ever meet. So as he came down the hill, that big light turned into two lights, side by side, like two flashlights. The closer he got, the smaller the lights became, until he's probably from here to Terry's cameras right there. And we're looking, the creek is between us, and there's a tree that he's standing behind and kind of beside. The limb on that tree was about 10 and a half foot, if I remember. You guys went back and measured it the next morning, right? And it's 10 and a half foot for the limb. So he's looking over and peeking around that limb. So that's how we know he was 10 and a half foot tall. Now, I could see his eyes. We all knew what he was and who he was. I could feel it. They have such an energy about them that it causes you to vibrate. It's a vibrational energy. Everybody has that. And I'm watching him. I'm shaking. You know, my hair's standing up. I don't know what you guys are feeling. I never asked you. But we're watching this guy. And then my best bud, Jason, decides to greet him with a greeting grunt. Didn't you, Jason? Jason said, "Whoa." What do you do, Jason? His eyes turned bright orange. I mean, just immediately. And I felt afraid again for just a brief moment. Cash didn't do anything. He's still standing there looking. Yeah, he did. He did. He whisper barked, but that was it. So after that happened, I start immediately apologizing. I'm bending over. I'm getting on my knees. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt us. We come here in respect. But whatever I could do, then the area settled down. It was all calm again, and we all felt perfectly fine. At that point, he turned and just walked away. The fortunate thing for me is most of the people in my group have got to experience these with me. I don't go out and come back with a story with no witnesses 90% of the time. I got my friends with me. A little past that, the next camp out. I got to, real quick, how much time do I have? I got plenty of time. Those guys went the next day. You guys found on the one hill, you found like a big tree that had been singed, burnt, looked like it had been struck by lightning, a big stump, and there's other trees around it, like on the ground, almost like a semicircle where they would sit. She called it the Great Learning Tree, is what she told me. Well, in my mind, what I got was that's where he taught all the other Bigfoot. That tree had been struck by lightning. That was the noise, the boom that Arla had saw. So it all made sense. So another year closer, we went down my trail. The first time I actually got to meet him, and this is going to be kind of quick. I want to get through the last part. Arla was with me. She was in front. We had a group behind us. I don't even know who all was there now. It's in my book. I've got a bad memory. So we're in the front, and we see and hear him coming down the hill. Pretty bright moon, so we could actually see him moving down the hill. The same guy. I knew it was the same guy when I saw him. So he comes, and he's standing in the middle of the trail, just big and just there. And it was night, but it was kind of bright, and the moonlight reflected off him. He's a lighter color. He's like a tannish brown color. Anita's been able to see him a couple times. So Arla and I, at this point, I said, what do I do, Arla? She said, go to him. Okay. So I took a few steps forward. I wasn't afraid. I was just scared. A little bit. But I trusted my friend Arla. I walked forward a little bit. He comes more forward toward me, and he starts talking to me in my head. I know it sounds crazy, but I swear. He's telling me things, and I'm seeing scenes, and they're going through my head, almost like you're downloading something on a computer. And I can see things. I can see scenes. And as this is happening, what did you say happened to me, Arla? When you were standing behind me, and he's there talking to me, you said I grew 10 foot or 5 foot or something?
Yeah, it was like you changed.
Yeah, totally changed. My wife that was behind me says I disappeared. She couldn't see me at all. She said you were not in the trail. So, cool. So, that was the other thing that I wanted to tell you. So, it's been a kind of an on and off thing with me and my teacher, and he's been teaching me things. He gets with me. Anita was with me the very last time I saw him. Anita and I were in the front. Same way. He came out, talked to me. We learned a lot together, and Anita helped me. We actually, after he was talking to both of us, so we got together afterwards. I said, what did you see? And then she asked me what I saw, but we just started talking, and everything matched perfectly. It's cool. Now, go forward to today. I got a partner in crime now. She's helping me do some research. She helps me make things, and we sell all kind of cool stuff. But we've been talking now for a couple years. She had an adventure, and when I first met her, I asked her, I said, is it okay that I've seen Bigfoot and wrote a book about it? And she's from Santa Barbara. I thought she'd go running and screaming into the night. Oh, no, I know about them. I said, oh, cool. So we started talking, and she taught me things that I didn't know. So I started learning about new things in the woods. Anybody ever heard of a fae? I didn't know what it was. She described, she was driving down the road from her daughter's house, and she seen something on the side of the road look like a little fawn. And when she got closer to it, it was on the passenger side of the road. She slowed way down. It's kneeled down. It jumps up, looks at her through the window. It's about 4 foot tall, and he slaps her car with his hand. She described it to me, and I found this online. She said, Keith, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what I saw. So there's a lot more than just Bigfoot. Our world has beings all over, different beings that are attached to this earth. She starts seeing these rock stacks. She'll be going down the road where this fae appeared. She'll see a rock stack. That's actually the rock stack. She'd drive by, she'd come back an hour later, it'd be completely gone. Not knocked over, but gone. No sign. There was actually 2 stacks side by side. They were like, well, I say side by side, about 200 yards apart. So now we're thinking, how many beings are there out there? The world's a mysterious, incredible place, isn't it? There's so many stories of them helping us. I know Arla used to have her dog Watto. They would take Watto out and play with Watto and bring her back, right? Cool. Sean has the same thing. They come into her house, and I know this is hard to believe, but I tell you, it's amazing. They'll come in and get her Great Dane, let her out, they go play with her, they bring her back. She can be out doing something if it starts to rain, and the Great Dane's got a house outside she can go in if it does, and she's got gated property. Well, they'll bring her in and put her in the house and shut the door. Crazy, but it's true. I know it sounds hard to believe. I promise you. They're an amazing being, and they're very smart. They're the smartest thing in the planet, in my opinion. They use all of their brain. We use part of our brain. We use the parts of our brain that we need just to survive, right? But we got it so easy. We got a house to go into, a bed to sleep in. They don't have that, but they elected not to have it. They're smarter than us. We cheat. We lost abilities that we all had. They still retain those abilities because they've developed every part of their brain. That's what my teacher taught me. They don't need to cook their food. They can eat it just like it is. Their bodies have adjusted to that. They are functioning on such a high intellectual level. Plus, they have a big heart. They have compassion. They have family groups. As Arla says, not to steal Arla's thunder or words, but she taught me. So I'm telling you, they're a lot like us in ways, and they're a lot like themselves in ways. They're just, we are who we are. We can cohabitate this earth and live together. That's what they want from us, is to help them protect our woods. If you go out and pick up trash, if you see it in the woods, if you go out and do something to help, because they're attached to nature. They live in nature in harmony. Just think if we could live our lives, not worry about food, not worry about shelter, not worry about anything but just living our lives. That's what they do. So tell me they're not smarter than us. Again, to be successful in having good and constant contact, it's not difficult. Just have a good heart, have an open and respectful mind. Just have fun and know they are not monsters. The media and other researchers want you to believe that. There's a lot of false research out there, people that want to cash in on them by calling them monsters. They're not. I can assure you that. One of the places that we go, walked into the guard shack one day and I was talking to him, and the guy that runs the place said, "Oh, my girl at the gate that's coming in, she came in the other day, she said there was a little, a monkey boy walking down the road, and he was looking around, and she's like, it was a monkey boy, it was a monkey boy." She didn't know what it was. They didn't tell her, but they're slowly figuring it out. So I'm pretty much done, right? Anybody got any questions? Fill up maybe a couple minutes.
How far is your current research area from here? If you'll share that.
20 miles. Anywhere you go up and down the Chattahoochee or Sweetwater, you're there. Sweetwater is just right over the hill. So Chattahoochee is just right over the hill.
So they're in Sweetwater Creek?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Actually, my daughter played tournaments here at this park. I don't know how many times that we were playing tournaments and it'd get late and I'd hear them howling. I'd hear their calls just out over in these woods just across. So they're here. I grew up in Austell, Georgia, in a little city. I remembered later in life seeing some big tracks and telling my dad, "Hey, there's some big tracks in the cornfield behind us." He said, "Yeah, some idiots back there without shoes." I said, "But they're that big." He never said anything. But I also remember seeing something look through my window between the street light one time, and I knew it was big and it was hairy because I could see it. But so I can go back and realize that I've been having visitations, and they've been in my life since I was a kid. And that's the case a lot of times. So, am I out of time? Pretty close. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I don't know where I'm at on time, but I'm supposed to be back at work right now. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys enjoy the rest of the conference.